Hey YouTubers, Facebookers and Instagrammers, I'm here today to make a video about being able to choose a puppy and also what I'm looking for when I am buying a puppy, and that is within the puppy and also what information is coming with that puppy. So I'm going to start off talking about the information element. So ideally you do want to look for a KC registered pup if you can, but really from the point of view of animal welfare. Okay, so the Kennel Club put in place rules to protect the dogs that people are breeding from. So the only downside from buying, so for example, a Sprocker, doesn't mean you couldn't get a good dog, but when you go and buy a KC pup, those rules are in place to protect the dogs that are being bred from. So for example, a dog can't be bred from when it's too young. There has to be a certain amount of time between litters. They're only allowed a certain amount of litters. For example, if they've had a cesarean, they're only allowed a certain amount of litters. Okay? If the dog is too old, they're not allowed to have litters. So there's a lot of rules in place there to protect. There are also health checks. So if you go and have your dog health checked, it might be hips, eyes. As soon as you come outside of the KC, someone could have a dog with a health issue. If they say I'm putting it to a cocker when their bitch is a Springer, okay, they immediately, there's no paper trail to protect the purchaser from the pup that they're buying. Okay, so although the KC can be a bit slow at doing things sometimes, the rules that they're trying to put into place are there to try and protect the dogs that are being bred from and also the people that are buying them. Okay, so by buying a KC registered pup, you'll know that they are having to sit within those rules. Okay, so that's not to say I've seen some fantastic crossbreeds, and in some senses they can be healthier because you're getting different bloodlines coming together. So a more mongrel type dog, you are probably more likely to have less health issues, but it's not protecting the dogs that are being bred from. So sometimes the sort of thing that can happen, someone will do a KC registered litter, and then the next litter they'll do like a Sprocker litter. And that way they can do more litters. And that's one of the things you have to be careful of if you are wanting to make sure that the dogs that you're buying from are being well cared for. And that is potentially really, really important. And there are obviously the health checks that then come with that, and you'll be able to see the lineage. And now a lot of the dogs are being born hereditary clear for various illnesses. Okay, so that can be really, really important. Like I say, it doesn't mean that you can't get good dogs of other breeding, but sometimes people are playing the system a little bit and you want to be a little bit careful of that. So, right, we've got puppies to choose from. Now, for me, silly bit of information out there, I've often said whether you want a cocker or a Springer, because obviously I'm talking about Spaniels because that's my job. For me, the bargain of the shooting world, if you're looking for a shooting dog, is a Springer dog. And there's a reason for that. Normally it's the hardest one for people to sell because most people want bitches, and with cockers being more popular, of the 4 different to choose from, so cocker bitches, cocker dogs, Springer bitches, they're normally the bargain, the shooter bar. They're normally a little bit cheaper. You can often get a choice, and for me, choice is probably the #1 thing. And also because Springers generally have slightly bigger litters, there'll be more pups to choose from. But that's not to say, obviously, if that's not what you want, then that's fine. But if you're asking me, if someone comes to me and say, I want a shooting dog, what's my best one? Well, for me, it would be a Springer dog. The chances of it being a bit cheaper, you're getting a lot more choice, okay? They're normally pretty hard hunting if you get the right one, and they don't come into season, which means you don't lose a month of that very short shooting season anyway. If you're just buying as a pet, then that's obviously different. You know, there's different choices. People often say to me, oh, would you prefer a dog or a bitch? For me, I've had good and bad of both. Okay, so it really doesn't come down. Some people say, oh, bitches are more biddable. For me, I've had more dogs than bitches probably over that period of time. And my best dogs have been dogs as well, not bitches. But then some other people would disagree with that. But I think fundamentally, for me, the pick is probably the most important thing. Admittedly, the best dog I've ever had was a dog that I was just handed. I never got a choice. But I had bought 10 pups from the same breeder prior to getting that one, okay? So I understand the statistics there. But if I have a choice of a bunch of pups to choose from, that makes a big difference to me. Part of the reason why I'm making this video this morning is because one of my clients rang me earlier and she was going to pick a puppy today, and I quickly wanted to run through the things that I look for when I'm choosing a puppy. Okay, so if you have got a choice of some pups, so let's say you've got a litter of cocker pups, okay, and you have the choice of a dog or a bitch, doesn't really matter. So whatever sex you're having, take the other ones immediately away. So if you've got a choice of 3 cocker dog pups, take the bitches away, just want to look at the dog pups. Now, if you have this luxury, and it doesn't always happen, so some people think when you go to buy a puppy, you're going to get to choose one. A lot of the time, it might only be one left, or there isn't a choice because the other ones are allocated for. But if you do have a choice, you can't really tell much at 4 or 5 weeks. I really want to be choosing as late as possible, and again, you might not have that choice. But in the scenario where there is a few pups to choose from, the first thing I want to look for is which one is nice and quiet. When I'm moving around those pups and they're buzzing around me, okay, if there's one that's making a bit of a noise, I don't really want that. So I'd immediately say, okay, here you go, take that one out of the equation. I might have just 2 or 3 pups buzzing around now. Okay, now at that point, I'm just going to watch them for a moment. A few things I'm looking for is how they wag their tails. I know it sounds crazy, but for me, I want to see a nice slow slung tail action, nice and vivid, almost like brushing the hocks of the back of the leg for me, okay? Really nice and low. If it's tails in the air, personally, I don't like that. I don't think you'll find any trialer that would like a dog with their tail in the air. So by the way, if you don't know, a trialer is someone that competes working spaniels. At that moment, I'm watching the tail. One of the things I'm watching is the vivid tail action. Now, because regardless of a pet or working dog, I want to have a good retrieve. So I'll often take a little rolled up sock in my pocket. And let's say there's 2 or 3 pups there. I might initially just roll the retrieve and just see what level of keenness is there. Okay, I then might pick up 2 of them, take them away, just sit on the floor, roll a rabbit skin ball or a little rolled up sock, just see how keen they are. I don't expect the dog to come back, but it'd be nice to see a pup run out, hold it, and then maybe parade around with it. That's fine. If it's keen to go get and it holds on, getting them back isn't too difficult. But if they're not that keen or they don't like holding them, that might be a thing that I go, okay, that pup's not quite for me. I'll take that one out of the equation. I might have 2 left now. Let's say those 2 are equally keen. Then I'm just going to watch them a little bit more. Again, they're watching for the tail action. I'm not too worried if a pup is a little bit shy than another one. As long as it's not hiding in the corner shaking, I'm not too worried. Often you find the ones that are a little bit quieter, you get them home a week or 2 in and they become a lot more bolder. Okay, so I'm just watching that action, which one was the keenest. Sometimes one will just stand out. Sometimes you might have 2 there, you're like, it's really difficult. At that point, you might say, well, that one's just got, you know, a slightly nicer head or whatever your preference is at that point. But for example, my client this morning, I asked her what she had to choose from, and she said to me, oh, there's only 3, but it's a litter of 9. I said, oh, are the rest bitches? She said, no, some of them are liver, and she wanted a black dog. And I said to her straight away, I said, personally, don't care about what color it is. It can have purple dots and green ears. If it's the best pup, that's the one I want, okay? So I hopefully she's gonna go with an open mind, so maybe there's liver and black. Go for the best pup there, not what color it is. It's a really bad choice to just choose a pup off its color, okay? For me, as long as it's the best pup there, that's the one that I'm gonna go with, okay? So hopefully I've covered a few things there. Just also a couple of other things you just want to check is make sure that they're probably going to want a deposit from you, which is completely normal. When I used to breed, I used to take quite a hefty deposit because I think until people part with their money, they're not really being honest about whether they want the puppy. So them asking you for a deposit, completely fine, completely normal. You want to check that when you go to get the puppy, that they're going to have all the paperwork ready. Again, the KC can be a bit slow, so it's quite common for them not to be able to have the Kennel Club papers when you go and get them, but they need to have the docking legislation forms. The microchip stuff needs to have been done. They may or may not have had them vaccinated. That's not a huge deal for me because sometimes you'll have a vaccination, you go to your vet and they're not using the same product and they have to do it again anyway. So I'm not too worried about the vaccination. That's not a massive deal, but I do want to make sure all the paperwork is there ready for when I do go and pick my puppy up. Anyway, don't forget, I do help people find puppies and coach people through these early stages, looking for the right puppy, making sure that the breed of dog is right for them. Any queries, you can come through my Facebook page, Hampshire Spaniel Training. go on there, send me a private DM, and I do coach people through all different elements. And obviously I do, most of my work now is online training, and that's me looking after people from 8 weeks onwards. And I would say that is incredibly valuable to people with new puppies. It can be a bit of a culture shock having a working Spaniel. There's a lot that you need to get right, and an awful lot you need to avoid getting wrong. Anyway, I hope this video has been some use to you, and I'll catch you later, guys.